everyone, and welcome back to the Bitter Geeks Podcast. This is episode 3, and today we're going to do our best to talk about and recap everything that went on with Justice Con that was held a couple weekends ago, and go off and ramble and rant and talk about all the things that came out of that and what we loved about it and everything we want to talk about it. So joining me are, obviously, if you've listened to the podcast at any point before, some familiar faces. So if you guys want to go around and introduce yourselves.
Hi guys, it's me, Fatma. You can find me on Twitter at FringeFats.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. You can find me on Twitter at Rebecca_MJ12.
Hi, I'm Al Speed. You can find me at AlBLM Speed on Twitter.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I am a Social Justice League on Tumblr and the Bravest Heart on Twitter.
All right, and then, of course, I'm your host, Nick. You guys can find me here at Nerdy Nick on YouTube, True Man of Steel on Tumblr, and at TrueManOfSteel_ on Twitter. So, Justice Con. It was such a huge and unexpectedly amazing event for us fans, and it was for Comic-Con, having its Comic-Con at home thing, it didn't even compare to the success and the greatness that was the fan-run Justice Con. So, of course, I have a lot I want to say about it, but Fatma, if you want to go and share your thoughts about everything that happened over the course of the weekend, like Zach's panel, Debbie's panel, and just overall your thoughts.
Yeah, I first of all want to thank the girls behind this and the people that helped with it all. So Meg, who is at Wonder Meg on Twitter, and the Nerd Queens, which are, I think, at the Nerd Queens or something like that. They worked so hard over the last few months and a bit. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they managed to do this, and I'm so thankful that, we've had an event for the fans, by the fans, and it was literally just a celebration of, the fact that the Zack Snyder's Justice League was actually a success. So that's something that needs to be said, I think. And I think all of the panels they were done in such a great way to celebrate the whole movement. You had obviously Zack Snyder, who is the person that we were fighting for, and we had Ray Fisher, who has been a wonderful and important and vital part of the movement as well. And to hear his voice and his experience was really, really important. I think his panel was one of the most enlightening panels throughout the whole 2 days, because of the way that he just, how he held himself and how he spoke with such integrity and truth. And I absolutely loved his panel, and I felt so, enraged, but also relieved that things are finally coming to light, and I'm glad that he could speak his truth. Obviously, Debbie and the girls, it was such a great way to speak about females in the industry and speak about how Debbie's role was really important with regards to Zack and his movies, and how they provided such a great set in in every single movie that they've tried to make. I think those are the ones that stood out mostly. It was nice to see Jay Oliva talking about his artistic views and how much he loves animation. It's very, very clear that he's very passionate and very, in love with what he does, and how much he supports Zack as well. It was great to see American Foundation for Suicide Prevention as well talking about how this movement has helped with them. So it's such a great and well-rounded 2 days, because it encapsulated every positive element and every positive aspect that we as a fandom, as a majority, have been working hard for the past 3 years. Yes, we've taken breaks here and there when things just weren't, around, but in general, it was just a wonderful, wonderful 2 days, and I'm so thankful for everyone involved in this and the girls behind it. So yeah, my support and love goes out to everyone who made this happen, including the panelists as well. So yeah, this is just my roundup. I hope I haven't taken too much of your time, guys.
No, that's a great recap of everything, especially just like I unfortunately didn't get the chance to see everything just because the way the weekend was planned out. Like I had enough time to watch like Ray's panel, Zach's panel, and then Debbie's panel on Sunday, so I didn't see everything. But it was nice like hearing what you were saying about like Jay's panel and the American Suicide Foundation and their panel, and just everything about the way that this was run. I think was handled really well for again being a fan convention, and
Yeah.
I just think I'm beyond impressed, and I've expressed that to the girls on numerous occasions because it's just like this sort of thing is just totally unprecedented. Like hasn't happened to this sort of degree before. Like we're like so many creatives involved in a huge franchise like this, getting together for a fan event. It's insane. So Rebecca, if you want to go and kind of share your experiences about what we're saying, maybe your favorite moments of the weekend and what you were able to see, and just overall your thoughts as well.
Well, I wasn't able to see everything, but I did watch the entirety of Deborah's panel, and I really liked hearing her talk about it because a lot of the times people like don't think about Debbie, or like outside of the fandom, people don't think about Debbie, even though she's so influential in the building of this universe. And I thought it was great to hear her talk about it and to like have her acknowledged. And it's also nice to hear those programs that she was talking about, where they bring in young people and especially young women to kind of show them the different aspects of the film industry. So to not just be like I am one woman producer, and so that's great and that's progress, because like it's obvious that she knows that like her position is like a way to get other women into the industry and like increase that exposure. So I thought that was like really important.
Yeah, so that's the one thing like noticing like watching her panel for myself too. It just like, and I do kind of think that in the fandom too, like she also I think doesn't get enough recognition. That of course everyone loves to, give credit to Zach, and Zach does deserve a lot of credit, but at the same time, like Debbie's been a huge driving force in a lot of what Zach does, and listen to her talk. She is so intelligent and just like has such a grasp on the movie industry and like where she thinks it should go, and just like, and just hearing her own, her experience with it, like to me is just like, I really wish there were more like female producers like her, or like just like people, or in general people like her in the industry, because I just feel like the drive and the way that her and Zach together work on their projects and do their projects, like I just think is something that I feel like is lacking in a lot of projects these days, or at least mainstream projects. And hearing her talk, and I just was just I was like, I couldn't not listen to a word she says. She's just so intelligent and just knows exactly what she's trying to say, and it isn't like, I don't know, there's just something about the way she talks that to me is just so like empowering, but also just like understanding. She's kind of like, this might be a weird thing to say, but I feel like she's very like motherly in the way that she like has such care for the industry and these films and the fans and everything that I really appreciate. And I don't mean to sound like motherly as like in sort of like insulting or just like, oh, because she's a woman or anything. It's honestly because of like the energy that she conveys, and just why I think that honestly Zach and his films wouldn't be what they were without her. And I think she definitely needs to be celebrated more.
Both the Snyders have big parent energy.
Yes, yeah.
She has like she feels like a mentor almost when she's talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my whole thing is that like I wish the fandom would celebrate her more, because I think she deserves as much, if not in some cases more, praise than Zach. Because I feel like, again, without her there, I don't know where some of Zach's projects would be or what they would look like. Because I think while Zach is totally amazing creative and he has a lot of amazing ideas, I think there are some times with Zach that, as much as I love him, he has some ideas that maybe he shouldn't convey on screen. And Debbie can be there to be like, okay, maybe we don't do this. Like I remember Danielle, you mentioned in one of our old podcasts, like especially with the whole like thing came out about just the nightmare sequence of Justice League where like they killed Lois, and I feel like I remember you mentioned like, oh, Debbie probably pulled the reins back on him and said like, okay, maybe we don't need to show this on screen, and that's probably one of the reasons why we ultimately haven't seen it, at least yet.
Yeah, we're still hoping, but I mean, her reaction to him disclosing that was definitely
telling.
It was iffy. She was very like, oh no, why would you say that? And I'm like, yeah, I hope that means that it got edited right out of the film. Like, and that's like her role as a producer. And it's so cool that they had that conversation about like sort of how that comes into their relationship and how that makes their relationship work better, because like he is the director and she is working for his vision, but she is the producer, and that means that he's her employee. So they get to work for each other in a way that like keeps that equality happening, which can be really hard. Like it can be really hard to get that balance in a relationship, and they found this really cool like working relationship way to get it done.
And it's a nice thing to like seeing like spouses in the industry working so in tandem with each other and helping each other in ways that maybe we don't always see. You know, like I think a lot of what Debbie does, I think there's a lot of things that Debbie does I think that we don't know about, as far as like how much sway she has over like Zach's vision and stuff. I'm not saying that she controls Zach, you know, but I just feel like what she does as a producer and as his wife, you know, I think that what they do together is really unique, and I think it benefits both, and I think overall benefits the films that they work on, because you can totally tell the amount of care that they put in every little detail of the films, whether it's Watchmen, Man of Steel, BVS, Sucker Punch, any of these, you know, you can totally tell the amount of care between the both of them, for both in front of the camera and behind the camera, and that's something that as a moviegoer and as a fan of their films and as just a fan of film in general, something that I really appreciate, and I feel like the industry is really lacking. I feel like they bring a real positive energy and positive influence to the industry itself.
That is something that I really felt like we're watching the entirety of Justice Con, was sort of like this cool thing where like we kept hitting this theme again, which is that everybody who works on these projects believes in the spirit of collaboration. They're very collaborative. Everybody's willing to give credit to everybody else. There's no like mastermind, and I think sometimes the fandom does a disservice to these films by sort of giving credit to Zach and being like, Zach is the only person who can do this. Zach is the only person who is at the reins here. As far as when we're talking about creative control, I mean, like, we're talking about a bunch of different people contributing different ideas to this big thing. And I mean, like Debbie said a couple times, like, it's Zach's vision, it's my job to bring it to fruition, but it's like, I think that is definitely reflected in I mean, like, letting Ray sit at the table and actually like make changes on the script to fit what his vision is for Cyborg. That's huge. That's the kind of stuff that we want to see going forward in the industry. And they're setting such a great example. And it's just really bizarre to have a bunch of people get really angry at them in the shadow of them actually doing like something really cool and collaborative and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really silly.
Yeah,
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Rebecca.
Going off what you said, Danielle, I agree. It's really silly for people to just be like, you know, Zach is the mastermind of all things. Like, yeah, he is a mastermind, but to ignore all of the brilliant people that he brings into these projects, like Hans Zimmer and Junkie, and, you know, the way he talked with with Nolan about the whole Batman stuff before, you know, the DCU was even a thing, and the leeway that he gives his actors, and the influence that Debbie has, and all of these other people who he loves to bounce ideas off of, and who he lets like contribute to the story and the aesthetic and all of these things. It's so weird for people to just like ignore all of that and to have like backlash against other directors, especially because it's not what the way Zach would have done it. And, like, Zach is happy. Like, Zach wants these people to do their art, and for certain people in the fandom to be like mad about that it's like, do you even realize how the DCU works? It's like Zack wants it to be this collaborative, cool thing, and you're like being, like negative about it when like you're going against what your king wants, like.
Yeah, it's very hypocritical.
It's it's weird.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Al, I know we've been kind of like leaving you in the dark here a little bit. So, what was?
I like listening.
So after you woke up and finally had the chance to watch all this stuff because you slept through all of it. What did you think of the whole JusticeCon weekend? And like, again, like kind of reiterating what I've been asking everyone else. Like, what were like some of your favorite parts, and like, what did you really enjoy about the weekend?
I think for me, what I enjoyed most is the fact that, like, I can't put it as eloquent as you guys did, but for me, what I liked the most about it was that it exists. Mm-hmm. I think that's what I liked the most about it, because it exists. During these times where everyone's forced to have to sit in their home and rely on technology and television and live streaming in order to get entertainment, I think it's really interesting that we as a community were able to come together. Like these three women who literally came together and were like, you know what, let's have a convention where we talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League and maybe some other DC stuff as well. Like, to actually come together to create such a relatively large concept and then to make that concept work, that's still amazing to me. Like, it could have gone so many other ways. There could have been technical difficulties, which there were, mm-hmm. but that's what you can expect from a first-time con. But with this, to do it virtually and to be able to not only get Jay Olivia and Zack Snyder, but also Debbie Snyder into it as well, and so many other people, it's hard to really put it into words, but it's just so amazing mm-hmm. what such dedicated fans can do. Mm-hmm. Like, what such dedicated people, dedicated women can do when it comes to just DC in general. And, it made me proud to be a DC fan. I can honestly say that, because we got this convention with JusticeCon, and then we got DC fandom that's coming up, and then there's apparently something else that's coming up later on in the year for winter. It really feels, I feel proud to be a DC fan, if I'm being honest.
No, yeah, like, this is honestly, and I completely agree, this is the first time, probably since pre-Justice League, that I've been this excited / proud to be a DC fan. Like, granted, there's always gonna be, the shady people in the fandom and stuff, and, like, I do my best not to let those people ruin my good time, but, like, mm-hmm. at the end of the day, and I feel like I wish we could have gone on more about this, because our last episode when we were talking about the Snyder Cut finally happening, like, the Snyder Cut is finally fucking happening. Like, we won, and this whole thing is so unprecedented. It's such, like, an unexpected thing to have ever happened, and this is really the first of its kind to really happen like this. Like, you could say, like, oh, well, they've listened to fans in the past about certain things, like with Sonic or whatever, like, but no, we're getting, like, a whole new cut of the movie. They're spending upwards of probably $30 million to complete this movie and put it on streaming services for us, because we were demanding it for so long. Like, if fans didn't push for that, we wouldn't get it. And that's the whole thing, like, with this weekend, too. Like, Meg and the Nerd Queens, they did something that also is unheard of. Like, I saw, like, a lot of fans over the weekend, like, just trashing them and, like, of course, just being obnoxious, misogynistic assholes because they were angry that women did what they never could. Like, I can't stress this enough. Meg and the Nerd Queens did something truly amazing for the fans, something that you can totally tell Zack and Debbie and Ray and every one of their guests appreciated so much, because, again, something we've never gotten before from fans. Like, of course, there have been fan conventions and stuff like this before, but, like, to get such, like, basically, like, A-list people to attend and be a part of and push for a fan convention like this is, again, totally unheard of. And the way they handled it, and, like, I know it must have been exhausting for them, and I give them all the credit in the world for being able to do this, and I don't care what all the naysayers and all the people who were just jumping on the hate bandwagon were saying. Like, they kicked ass that weekend. What they were able to pull off, like, I'm so beyond impressed that, like, I could never do something like that. Like, no matter how much I try, I don't think I could ever, one, have the confidence to literally be in front of literally hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, watching that weekend for Zack Snyder and for more Justice League stuff and for the Black Suit stuff. Like, all of that. Like, so many eyes were on them for a fan event. It's insane, and they handled it beautifully, and I can't give them enough credit. It was, in my opinion, like a perfect weekend.
Yeah.
So, last but not least, Danielle.
Well, I mean, one thing that really occurred to me in reference to Justice Con is sort of like the way that we actually just pivoted the whole tone of the fandom, like just on a dime. Because I feel like before Justice Con, we had sort of like, I would say like a 60-40 kind of relationship, and 60% were people who I didn't want to interact with, people who were overtly negative, people who were really, really antagonistic toward the rest of the fandom, people who were openly bigoted. We had all sorts of those people, and they were the people who were loud, and those were the voices you were hearing. They were our representation, and people have been saying for years, really, that Zack is supposed to be the one who speaks out. Zack is supposed to be the one who says something to put an end to, like, the trolls in the fandom and the people who are saying terrible things in his name and doing terrible things in his name and harassing people and all that shit that none of us approve of. And I feel like this was the most positive way and the most interesting positive way to do that. And I think that's actually why so many people are so mad at the organizers of Justice Con. I think that's actually what's going on, is that Zack sort of gently brushed them aside. He said, okay, here's the thing. Like, this wouldn't have happened if it hadn't have been these girls at this time. It wouldn't have happened. You had three complete professional women sitting in on these, making very, very specific capitulations to these people so that they would come and do these interviews, being really respectful. Nobody ever fanned out or made anyone uncomfortable. One of my favorite things, and I've said this before to them because I thought it was so incredible, is how comfortable every single person they interviewed felt. You know, how, like, we got Ray at, like, it felt like Ray doing one of his live casts. It felt like him doing just basically like a one-on-one interview with us, because it was so professional, it was so well conducted, and it was so welcoming in a way that I think they're not even going to get a DC fandom. Like, I honestly, the weird thing about Justice Con is that it kind of blew my excitement for DC fandom, because I was like, it can't get better than this. Like, it can't get any better than the weird intimacy of this, where we, the fans, just invited them into a space. They got to that space, and most of the people interacting were completely respectful. We had some chat issues along the way, but for the most part, like, that's the cool thing, is that, like, the people who were invited to fandom the people who were invited to Justice Con were not affected by that because of the way it was organized. It was just like, it was masterful. Honestly, I think it was better than the vast majority of cons I've been to. And I think that if anybody's smart, that this is what the future looks like of conventions, especially since the pandemic has sort of reoriented our relationship to conventions. I'm not sure that conventions were ever like a super awesome idea. It's not like everyone doesn't get sick after them anyway, under normal circumstances. Under these circumstances, people definitely would have gotten sick. Like, it's a really good idea to cancel the convention season. But There's something different about fans taking the reins. And one thing about fans is that we can't afford to rent the space. We can't afford to book venues. We can't afford to make those physical conventions happen. But the virtual conventions, that's leveled the playing field. That's almost something that like Comic-Cons and stuff should be worried about, because if anyone can do this, there are fans out there that can do it better. And they did.
And honestly, and that's not to try to insult you or anything, but that's like honestly a huge understatement for how well the weekend played out. And I'm not just saying this because I'm biased because it's Zack Snyder and it's the DCEU and it's Justice League, but this honestly, seriously, blew Comic-Con at home the fuck out of the water. Like, it's not even the competition. People were just like, oh, well, it just had some smaller stuff. Marvel wasn't there and blah, blah, blah. Like, no. People lined the fuck up for Zack Snyder in ways that I don't think anyone was expecting. Like, so many more eyes were on JusticeCon than Comic-Con at home. No one I know talked about Comic-Con at home. Granted, my spaces still weren't fully aware of JusticeCon either, but, like, and I understand Comic-Con at home, like, didn't have the time to plan this out as well as they would have wanted to because of the pandemic and everything, and I get that. But for having, I feel like, less time to prepare and having ultimately a handful of A-list guests and then the rest basically fans and some other organizations and stuff, honestly, this is probably the best convention I've quote-unquote attended in a really long time. Just from the content, for the way that it was run, just overall, I was just so, again, beyond impressed. And I know, like, I'm sure, like Meg and Nerd Queens are, like, they're unsure, like, of whether or not they're going to do another one next year. And honestly, I don't know where the world's going to be in a year if we're still going to be doing this. But honestly, like you said, Danielle, because of the way that the pandemic has shifted the way we do these sort of things and everything's kind of online and everyone now kind of has the space, fans have the space to kind of control these and to have the opportunities to do these and to have people like Zach be such huge advocates for the fans and like letting them kind of take the reins of this. Like, this is huge, and I think it's going to be set, at least in our space, a positive trend where, like, again, I'm really excited for fandom and, well, minus certain things. Gun. But again, I just feel like what JusticeCon ended up being was way bigger than I think anyone ever anticipated. And I'm so proud of the girls for that. And I'm also just repeating myself a lot just because I want the assholes who were just being assholes because women did this to hear this. Women did this. Women fans did this. Like, and again, you can paint Zack Snyder fans as like misogynistic dude bros all you want, but women did this. Like, it wasn't like a bunch of like straight white women like doing this. It was just like, I really wish people would take the opportunity to actually look at, again, who are the big voices in this fandom right now and who are the ones actually making positive changes. It's not all the annoying, terrible dude bros. It's really not. Like, yes, they could be loud, but they're not the ones who do the actual work in the fandom. They really aren't. And JusticeCon proved that, and people, I think, really need to give more credit to the girls for being able to accomplish this, because if it were a bunch of guys, honestly, and I'm not here to paint these guys in a certain light, but recently, and I'm not going to get too specific because I know these guys personally, and it's nothing against them. They're mostly nice guys. But a certain DCEU director was interviewed by some fans that I know personally recently, and it was all guys, and it wasn't handled all that well. Like, it was a lot of questions and a lot of responses that, like, one, she was already given the pass, or two, like, were very staged in ways that, like, the questions themselves or what they were talking about this with this certain director like didn't make sense or were only there just to try to kiss ass to the director. And like that's not what I think that fans should be doing. Like how the girls ended up doing it with Zach and Debbie and Ray and Jay and everyone was handled so well that like I think a lot of even normal press people, you know, they strive to but ultimately fail a lot of times. So as fans to be able to do that, I'm more than impressed at this point.
Well, like, and I think that there's a lot of reasons that that's happening in terms of why gender plays a factor in this. And I read an article probably like 4 or 5 years ago that was about the difference between the way that men conduct themselves in fandom spaces traditionally and the way that women are sort of entering fandom spaces and taking up more room. And it was like basically like the idea that men have traditionally curated in fandom spaces and women have traditionally created in fandom spaces, where you have male nerds are more likely to like collect facts and collect information and to say like, you know, well, this is, I have ownership over this because I know all the things about it, where women are more interactive with the content. We're the people who are more likely to write fanfic. We're the people who are more likely to create fan art. We're going to engage with things creatively. And I think that transcends gender in a way where we're moving forward, and a lot of fans, regardless of gender, are starting to become creators, are starting to interact creatively with the media, and it's way more productive and way more interesting and pushes the boundaries. And I think a lot of corporate entities have a huge problem with it because they can't own our half of it. They can't market it to us, where like they like traditionally could make like lexicons of information. They could make like, you know, like behind the scenes content, and behind the scenes content really isn't, it doesn't boom the way it used to because people are really interested in what they have to bring to the table. And I think that JusticeCon is like a reflection of that. And I think that's the reason that it's really important that it's headed by women, because their natural instinct is to nurture that media and to really bring out like what they can bring out creatively from it, and to interact with it in ways that make room. And I think that's what a lot of what I saw in those interviews was just these ladies making room for the creatives they were interviewing to do what they wanted to do and to say what they wanted to say, and really just like, you know, a soft hand with interviewing is so interesting to watch because it's a kind of a dying art. You don't see it anymore. You see people who are doing things that are like very canned, like you said, and like they're taking a lot of like sort of like setups so that whoever they've already agreed with upon, like, you know, the agreed upon content, they're just setting that up. They're just over and over again, like, or they're asking like things that don't interest anyone. Mm-hmm. You know, they're just saying like, you know, just like doing prompts for funny stories and stuff. Like they just either don't care about the content, they don't care about the artist, or they don't care about how entertaining the interview is to listen to. Mm-hmm. That sucks. Like I don't think that being part of the promotional scheme of a movie is a good way to be an interviewer. And I think that as fans, they had a really good instinct for what the artist wanted to say, for what fans wanted to hear, and like, you know, really firm boundaries about where they could and couldn't go. But those never seemed to hamper. You know, it wasn't like a whole lot of them being like, okay, we can't talk about Green Lantern. Okay, we can't talk about this. Like, if the chat hadn't been there screaming a bunch of random things that these ladies already knew that people wanted to hear about, like, it wasn't going to be a thing. Like, Warner Brothers is not gonna blow their big news on a fan convention. That's their mistake, but it's the reality of the situation. And I mean, like, them existing in that reality and being realistic about it and being grounded in like wanting to promote something that was already existing. That made all the difference. Like, it was very chill. I've never seen Zach so confident in an interview ever.
Same,
like, I've
same.
always just, like, he's entered the room and I've been like, okay, so first thing we're going to do is deal with Zach's anxiety, you know, like, because I pick it up. I'm a high anxiety person too. I immediately pick it up. I watch Zach do like 3 things and I'm like, oh my God, I'm feeling this. This is exactly how we feel. It's very stressful. I'm sorry we have to do this interview.
And
that was like turned way down. Like, it's still like, you know, you still feel a little bit of like undercurrent of like, ooh, everyone's watching, oh no. But it was turned way down.
And it's funny because, like, I completely agree. Like, this is definitely the most lax, most comfortable I've ever seen him ever in any public capacity. The only other time I felt like he got even close to this was when he did his director's cut weekend. When that was his own space to be like, you know, everyone's living in a fucking dream world. You know, like, like him having the space to, like, basically say what he wants for the most part and be able to express himself in a way that's not, like, of course he's still under the public eye, but, like, him being able to say things without a certain filter on. You know, like, if he's being interviewed by, like, most press junkets, like, for, you know, like, after a movie's been screened or whatever for critics, like, that's a very different energy than the type of energy of, like, being like, you know what, fuck it, here's Black Suit Superman, you know, and he's just, like, so, like, and especially when it was asked of him, like, oh, are you going to use any of Joss's scenes, and how livid he got in answering that question gave me so much energy that I didn't know that I needed. Like,
a supportive audience makes a huge difference with that kind of anxiety.
Why would you even ask him if he would use Joss's scenes?
I know.
Why would you ask?
But honestly, though, as much I think is a stupid fucking question, I'm kind of glad it was asked because his response was fantastic. And, like, honestly, and I know, like, he did say that, like, him and Debbie, it was their decision to walk away and stuff, and, like, I respect that. But you could still see...
Bullshit.
What?
I didn't say anything. I've never said anything about that subject. No, it's bullshit. It's straight up bullshit.
I can believe to a certain extent that they wanted to take a break considering what happened.
Yeah, I believe they were driven off the project.
I don't believe that.
Emotionally, I think they were absolutely driven off the project. And, you know, that space could have been supportive, and it was not. And we need to consider that. I mean, we need to consider that like we would at any other job, which is like a soft firing. You can fire someone. Them.
And that's the thing. Like, I really think that I think it's real
like,
quick.
I guess.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Like, I think there's also another thing that I wanted to mention, but I didn't know if it was the right time. But, you know, with regards about what Ray's been talking about, you know, with all the stuff that Ray was bringing into light during Justice Con, which I felt was very interesting because it definitely proved a lot of the stuff he was talking about on Twitter, and also proved a lot of speculations that, you know, we've had about, you know, things that have been going on behind the scenes with not only the cast, but just, you know, the crew in general.
And
I loved his interview a lot more than I expected to.
Oh, me too. Like, his was honestly the most emotional for me. Like, sitting there listening to it, just hearing, like, you know, there's so much more that he wants to say. And so much that he wants to reveal. And knowing that he legally can't, and he has all these fucking internet assholes, you know, like Jodas Corner or whatever, and fucking, you know, indie fucking, you know, sexual abuser Signor.
Or whatever.
Yeah. Or just like, oh, well, he needs to just be open, just tell us everything that happened, because otherwise we just don't believe him. He just looks like an asshole looking for attention. First of all, fuck you, burn in hell. Secondly, like, first of all, for people who quote unquote like know the movie business, sure don't know how NDAs work, and it's just like Ray has I think the most like, and him being honest and just being like, hey, like one of the reasons why I'm doing this now is because like I don't have a family that I need to provide for. Like I can take the heat coming from all of this, you know. And at the time, you know, like he was put under so much pressure to be like, hey, well, for whatever reason, you know, they're reshooting all the stuff and they're diluting his character who was going to have this amazing arc in the film, and he ultimately I think suffered more than most of the other actors on set, you know. And he
didn't even dilute, like they literally cut it out.
Well, I was just trying to figure like a more like a nice term, but I wasn't trying to be a dick, but at the same time I just feel like what Ray's been saying and seeing him at Comic-Con in 2017 when they were doing the reshoots and when he was saying like, oh yeah, Joss is a great guy, he's just cutting some things up and blah 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 blah, like you could totally see it in there, like one, that they're making him say that, and two, just like how like dead inside he looks and saying it, like
and Jason like looking at him like, yeah, I feel your pain right now.
Yep. And I just feel like you can't look at this situation and I can't seriously support Joss. Like, and it's funny because like over the weekend I was talking to my sister. My sister always likes giving me a hard time about the DCE movies because she thinks a lot of them suck, and a lot of times she'll try to throw jabs at me over Justice League, like, you know that movie sucks, right? I'm like, yeah, it does, and like she says that as if that's gonna hurt me. I'm like, okay, like I agree, it's a piece of shit. And so we're like talking about Justice League and stuff. I'm like, yeah, well, everything coming out with Joss Whedon. She's like, yeah, but him being an abuser and stuff. But like, she's like, oh yeah, but Avengers was good though. I'm like, this is coming from like a super hardcore feminist, and you're giving him credit even though he's still an abusive piece of shit. Like I love
Avengers. Wasn't that good.
Like,
just like real quick, it wasn't even that good.
It's not. I wasn't about to start an argument with my sister because my sister and I have finally gotten to a point where like we actually get along for the most part. So I wasn't trying to say anything, but at the same time, it's just like really like you like. And my sister loves like when she hates someone because they're an abusive person or like a sexual abuser or racist or a piece of shit, anything like that. She will make it known how she feels about that person. Like, my sister, for a long time, hardcore Joss Whedon fan. Like, and also my sister's a hardcore feminist. Like, but I just feel like, in some instances, she's just like another white feminist who just, like, picks and chooses what she gets angry about. And it's frustrating.
Well, to offer some perspective, from the perspective of an ex-Whedon fan, I think that this one's really hard. I do think this one's really hard. I think that, I mean, like, obviously there is an obvious right answer and an obvious wrong answer. And I've said a couple times over the course of the time that, like, you know, if the biggest Whedon website in the world can just shut its doors over that situation, then there's absolutely no reason for anyone to be hanging on. But I do kind of understand how people can get really attached, especially people who are really into feminism, because Joss was a gateway to feminism for a lot of young people, for a lot of women that, you know, didn't even think about it before they started watching Buffy, before they started watching Angel, you know. But like, I think you're also right, because I think that what Joss sells is a version of white feminism. It's just a really detrimental, misogynistic version of white feminism, and that's nuance, you know. That's about being able to see all the layers. But I mean, Me Too isn't pick and choose, you know. Me Too isn't like, oh well, not this guy because I really like his movies. That's just not how it works. So I mean, like, I can see both sides of that argument, but you know, obviously yours more than hers, because I've been anti-Joss Whedon for I don't know, probably like 10 years now? It doesn't feel like 10 years. It feels like I was a Buffy fan 3 minutes ago, because like sometimes I'll just like take out that grudge and nurse it for a while. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's probably been about 10 years that I've been like hardcore anti-Joss. Fuck that guy.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny, like,
but I don't think it takes more than your wife literally writing a giant essay about what a dick you are.
I know. So. Like, I still, like, to this day, like my sister to a degree, I understand, like, kind of we were talking about why. Oh yeah, FYI, my daughter's awake from her nap, so you'll be hearing a lot of her. Hey, Emily, want to say hi? Say hi to the other Bitter Geeks. She just wants her
Was that a no? We are not cool enough for her yet. That's fine. That's understandable.
Yeah, well, I told some people about this. So the other day, just completely unrelated. This is all about my daughter. So we have this DVD cabinet in our apartment, and that's where I keep like all of like my Blu-rays and DVDs and stuff. And so my daughter likes getting into it from time to time, and like it's locked, so she's only in there if we let her. And so I have like on the top shelf, I have all of like my seasons of Smallville and all my DCEU movies. And my daughter loves specifically to go to seasons 8 through 9 of Smallville and stare at them all day. And she'll like throughout the time she has the thing open, she'll point out Tom Welling and be like, "Dad." And then 2 days ago, I turned away for 2 seconds. I caught her literally licking Tom Welling's face on the side of the DVD.
I mean, if that's not relatable, I don't know.
I feel like maybe it's the shirt. She notices that you've got the Superman shirt, so she thinks you're Superman.
That's what I hope, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I think someone has some super taste in some Superman. Am I embarrassing you? But yeah, but anyways, like back to Joss and just this whole thing of, like, seeing so many fucking nerds on the internet like jumping through hoops to defend this dude. And especially like the other day, someone was like, "Oh, that Chase dude or whatever was that people were quote tweeting constantly were like." And where he was saying, like, "Oh, the Joss cut of Justice League, people need to stop giving him a hard time because it's probably the best cut of that piece of shit," or whatever. But, like, okay, first of all, like, in what world do you really think that the theatrical version of Justice League is in any way the best version of what they got?
Of anything. How is it the best version of anything? How is it the best version of a turd? I don't understand. Like, I'm so offended by that movie existing. Like, I remember sitting in the theater and being like, they hate me. Like, Warner Brothers hates me. They think I'm a fucking slack-jawed idiot. They think that I have no capacity for reason. And they think that this is what nerds want. They must hate us. Like, I was super offended. Like, I was in the theater being like, oh my god, this is personal. This is like a personal, like, hit video to me.
Yeah. I think when I...
Oh, sorry, Al, go ahead.
I'll be quick. I think, yeah, I felt the same way too. And, you know, as I'm watching this version of Justice League, I think I watched it like the first time and I was like, oh, this isn't that bad. Then I had to watch it a second time and I was like, nah, this shit garbage. This shit is dumpster fire. This shit,
It's honestly...
And the funny thing about it is, like, I know people who, you know, when Snyder Cut came out, there are a lot of people who are saying, oh, well, when the Snyder Cut comes out and then it ends up being bad, you're just gonna make yourself believe it's good. And it's like, well, no, because I've seen how bad this one is. And, you know, by comparison, obviously, the real one would be better.
And also, it's not even, like, as much as it is about, like, obviously Zack's is going to be better. And that's the thing, too, like, people being like, oh, well, if it's still going to be a turd, you're going to defend it no matter what. Like, okay, I'm a Zack Snyder fan. More than likely, I will enjoy it way more than I ever enjoyed the fucking Joss version, ever. Like, I just don't understand these people who are just, like, we're going to go through, like, our mental, hoops to defend the movie if it's bad. Like, okay, I'll be honest if it's bad, but no matter what it ends up being, it cannot possibly be any worse than the dumpster fire that we got in theaters.
I went into Batman vs. Superman freaking terrified out of my mind that we were going to shatter the beautiful, unblemished legacy that Man of Steel left. Like I was so afraid that we were gonna fuck it up. That like there was this perfect movie that was going to exist, and that the sequel was going to be garbage because everybody was in my head about it. And I started like reading good reviews and bad reviews, and starting to be like, well, the more bad reviews they are, the more I'm gonna like the movie. And then I read a bunch of good reviews, and I was like, oh no. It's the movie they think is good. I'm fucked. I'm super fucked. So I went into Batman vs. Superman with huge anxiety. I still would have wanted it to be seen. Even if I hated Batman vs. Superman, like, that doesn't have anything to do with whether or not that movie should get produced or whether or not that movie should exist. Like that's the thing that makes me crazy. It's like we've got this culture where we've decided that like movies need to be like necessary, and they need to be like something that people ordered like at McDonald's. And it's like, no, like that's not the purpose here. The purpose here is seeing this really cool effort done by a bunch of different people. And if you can't appreciate art from that perspective, you're always going to be disappointed because you're just expecting a happy meal, and you're not going to get a happy meal. You're going to get something you didn't expect, and sometimes that thing you didn't expect is awesome, and sometimes that thing you didn't expect is awful. But like either way, it should be seen. It should be created, especially if it's created with the entrepreneurial spirit, as long as it's created with some sort of artistic direction. That's the thing that's so offensive about Justice League, is that Justice League was made by committee, and you can tell that someone took the raw footage of a film that someone loved and nurtured and cared about and cut it into something that was focus tested to death, something that was like literally just like that was ordered up by execs, that was manipulated into something that could pass for a film because they didn't want to go with the story that they had sitting in front of them. Mm-hmm. And instead of just, saying, hey, this is a wash, it's not what we wanted, they decided that they needed to still make $10 off of it, which is about what they fucking made, and they deserved it, and released just the most offensive disaster. And that's not about that movie not being seen. That's about the fact that nobody fucking made that movie. Joss didn't make that movie. That's a lie. It's a lie that he's perpetuating. He didn't make that movie. He literally showed up, hatchet jobbed together some sort of storyline, and was never proud of it for 30 seconds. And I feel like I can say that because I've watched Joss Whedon for, the better part of my life behave. And I know how he behaves when he thinks he's done a good job. He fucking disappeared after Age of Ultron. He hates that movie. That movie was awful, and he knows it. Same thing with Justice League. He blinked out of existence. He did not want to engage with anybody about Justice League because nobody made that movie. And that's half the thing. It's it's not even the Justice League. It's just Warner Brothers and their cynical detachment from the people who consume their content, and the fact that they secretly hate us, and they decided to just out the secret. They were just oh well, I guess we're just gonna tell everyone who buys our shit that we hate them and we think they're idiots.
It's honestly
to play devil's advocate and also to talk about movies a little bit. I like Age of Ultron, and it's better than the first Avengers movie. That's just my personal opinion. And I don't know if I like it because Whedon hates it. Like, whatever they made him do to it made it better, in my opinion. But whatever. And then with movies, like, to kind of like make a metaphor, I don't know if this is like a local meat or something, but like just to see these kind of like pink slime chicken nuggets, where like it's just this like weird conglomerate meat that's like no one knows what it is, but they put it together and they're gonna feed it to the masses, kind of thing. And it's like, it's weird that people get so mad. To talk about BVS specifically, it's weird that people get so mad about whether or not a movie is good or bad, because it's not like no one's ever seen these characters before. Like, if it's not your jam, there's like 100 animated movies.
For real though.
TV shows. There's the Nolan trilogy. There's the Reeves movies. There's Superman Returns. There's all of this stuff you can go experience that isn't this particular movie. And it's like I understand when it's a lesser known character with more stakes, but for Superman and Batman, like, what's the big deal, you know? Which is another reason I get upset when people slag off particular X-Men films, because I'm like, dude, there's like 20 other X-Men films. Like pick your flavor and stick with it, you know?
And that's like, that's why the people who call the theatrical version of Justice League a good movie for the characters, I don't understand, like, what is it you actually like about these characters, and why is it that you like a version of a movie where none of them are actually in character?
I don't think they like the characters. They just like fights and like house fights or something.
I'm fucking crying.
Like, if you could look at that movie, I'm gonna say this as a past Batman fan turned Superman fan. Like, before I watched that movie, I was solely focused on, you know, how they were gonna do Batman, because I was coming off of, you know, BVS, you know, that badass warehouse fight scene, and then the small moments he had in Suicide Squad. I was coming off of that Batman. So, you know, I was hyped for this, because I was like, oh shit, I'm going to see Batman do some cool shit again. So, and then I go into the movie, and not only am I disgusted, I am flabbergasted, I am distraught, I am another big word that I can't think of, but it's bad, and it completely turned me off from Batman. And I can honestly say that Justice League killed my interest in Batman.
Killed Ben's interest too.
Yeah, no, just Batman in general. That movie killed my love for Batman, and I have not been right since. And now I have been fully devoted to Superman. And so, yeah.
It's so like, everything about that movie is just so fucking terrible. Like, they took scenes that I'm sure Ben didn't think were actually gonna make the cut. Like, terrible cuts of scenes, like the whole, like, do you talk to fish scene in when he's like trying to bug Aquaman, when he's like, oh, put out a feeler, aquatic. Like, that was literally such a bad take. And like, I mentioned this before.
Jason, like, that the waist, it was all like, it was so bad.
And it's so funny. I remember I saw right before the movie came out, they released some like behind the scenes sort of thing where they were filming that scene, and I didn't know that was Joss at the time. But like, so they showed Ben doing that scene, and he was saying to Jason, "Oh, can you put a feeler out in the aquatic community? Do you talk to fish?" It was still garbage, but still, it was like, okay, there's lines being said. But in the theatrical cut, it's literally just like words and gibberish. That I'm sure Ben just flubbed the lines and was like, okay, we'll do another take. And they put that in the movie.
Seriously, no, this cut cost $10.
While you were like repeating that dialogue, like, I had such a cringe reaction. Like, I was literally staring into the distance with like this appalled expression on my face because it's so horrible to like relive it in any capacity.
Yeah. I feel like, you know, Bruce would be smart enough to know how to eloquent that in a better way than what was used. It really felt like out of place for Bruce to say it like that.
Like
can you
nearly
imagine, like any version of Bruce Wayne saying a line like that.
It's honest, it's so bad. Like it's just like they make him a fucking idiot. Like when he looks at Steppenwolf, it's like, oh, he is tall. No fucking shit, dude. Like the fucking garbage they make Ben say makes me so like forgiving of him wanting to leave the role and what it did to him. I don't blame Ben at all for that. I'll blame Ben for things in his personal life that he's done. But as far as how that role affected him and what he had to go through there, I will never blame him for wanting to leave because, oh my god, it was so fucking terrible.
With regards to, like, Whedon's writing ability, like, I was just reading this article the other day about, I think it was the 20th anniversary of X-Men or something like that. And it was an article about, what's his name? The director.
Bryan Singer?
Yeah, Singer. It was about Singer and, all the horrible stuff. But Whedon came up in the article, which I was surprised about, because they were talking about how on the first X-Men movie, it was so confusing about who exactly was writing it, that, they thought they had these guys writing it, and then there was some other people that came in, and then Singer's assistant was writing it at one point, and they had Whedon come in, and it was just pure confusion. But Whedon's stuff apparently was so shitty that Singer couldn't even include it. Like, literally, he wrote a script or something, or part of a script, and they only included 2 lines out of everything that he wrote. Because Singer was like, this is pure crap, and it's not going to be in the movie. So if someone as horrible as Singer is like, yo, this isn't good, like, I mean, it must have been truly awful.
That's the funny thing, fucking Joss failed upwards in Hollywood. Like if he wrote a fucking shitty ass X-Men script, a fucking The Atrocity, that is his Wonder Woman script, and yet they're like, you know what? This is good. Avengers, there you go. And then he fucking defined the superhero genre for the last decade over his garbage, and it's like, can you imagine how much of the world would be a better place if we didn't have him?
It was just, the writing of that movie was just awful.
Yeah, I had to actually rewatch that movie to really see just how. And you know what's sad about that movie? As I was watching it, I was like, yeah, I can. This feels like Justice League to me. Like, it felt so familiar. Like, when you watch them back to back, you can just tell that, Joss Whedon really tried to make Justice League like it was the first Avengers movie.
And so did Danny Elfman too, fucking asshole.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep, because I know I could talk all day about how much I hate Justice League and how much I think it's a piece of shit. And I know we've gone off topic on numerous accounts in this podcast in the past, or the DC Films podcast in the past. But I would like to, if we can, kind of segue it back to all the amazing things we experienced. Because we still haven't talked about the black suit scene in its entirety.
Okay, can I just say I'm a little bit confused why, yeah, I get it, like, he looks beautiful in the black suit, but, like, there's no new footage, so, like, why is it such a hype thing? Like, I'm just saying. Personally, I don't get it.
For me, I think it's, like, when I knew the black suit was coming, but for me in general, I guess it has a lot of comic book nuance to it. Like, not nuance, but it was basically the suit that we saw Superman in when he, quote unquote, came back from the dead. Like,
yeah, I know.
Even back then in the comics where, Superman was literally gone for that large majority of time, we were all wondering, how's Superman going to come back? How's he going to look? What's going to happen? And then he finally comes back and he's dressed in this sleek black suit, silver gray emblem, this like black long hair, and back when mullets were like the most manliest thing that you could have.
Well, technically, it's not a mullet according to Dan Jurgens, and I believe him. So he just had beautiful long hair.
Yeah. So like, the black suit very much represents Superman's rebirth, as in his return. And to see it in Zack Snyder's Justice League after what we saw from Joss's Justice League, it just kind of caps off this perfect return of the Superman we saw in Man of Steel and BVS. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's why a lot of people are...
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's
I thought that, like, you already knew that it was going to be there. And so, like, I was expecting, like, well, like, I thought that we weren't going to see the suit until, like, I don't know what I was thinking, but, like, I thought we already knew that the black suit was going to appear, because was it Henry who had, like, posted it on his Instagram or something, like an edit of him with the black suit? So
the history of it, so, like, before the movie came out, Henry posted a black and white image of the S, or what we thought assumed was that. And then, like, earlier this year, I think, Zach posted an official image of Henry in the black suit. And so I don't think anyone was like, not expecting to see the suit. I think a lot of it was just, like, seeing our first official, like, scene of the Snyder Cut, and seeing the scene in context of what Zach had originally planned. Because obviously, it's a scene we've seen before. They released it on Blu-ray, and, you know, Zach talked about it, and how they're like, oh, so they were basically doing it to appease the fans because they were clamoring for the Snyder Cut at the time, and they gave us his footage, you know. And so again, it's not a new scene. We've seen it, but now we know Zach was originally going to have him in the black suit in that scene, and that the suit. And it's funny because I've given the Justice League suit a little bit of crap. Not that I hate it. It's just because, like, I've never been a huge fan of the shiny undersuit that they added to it to kind of cover up Henry's muscles. But now that I know that Zach did the suit with the intention of having it being lit in a way that it would still look good once they convert it to black and white, or black and silver or whatever, it makes more sense, and I'm more okay with it, because when they showed that scene, I really liked it, and I liked how the light reflected off of it. So in that instance, I really did like how the suit looked. So for me, like, watching the scene in context and how it looked definitely changed my perspective of, 1, that scene, 2, of the suit, and 3, just how much I didn't know I was going to love the scene more, even though we still haven't seen, obviously, the full scene in context, but now knowing more of the context to what made the scene what it was.
Okay, so it's not really that, like, everybody was shocked, more that, like, it was just an emotional reaction to like seeing it for the first time officially.
Yeah.
And, like, with the suits, sorry.
No, go on.
Were you gonna say something, Al?
Nah.
Like, with the suit, like, are there? Because I know people were talking, and you just mentioned this as well, that it's the the red and blue suit, but they lit it, or, like, they did something, like, digitally to make it look black and silver. But, like, I thought that there would be, like, originally, like, before, you know, Justice League came out, and, like, when it was just trailers and everything, I thought that, like, I was hoping that there was going to be a black suit, and I thought that there would, like, physically actually be a red and blue suit and a black and silver suit, but it's sounding like they didn't make a silver suit, and they just have the one suit, but they digitally make it look different colors depending on which part of the movie we're in.
Yeah, so in his panel, Zach was talking about how Warner Brothers was super against using the black suit for some stupid reason, and he never knew. Well, he never says the official reason why. But
yeah, they said it was too dark and too scary,
or something. Yes, they said something. Yeah,
dark and scary.
And whatever it was stupid. It was stupid reasons. So Zach. So they never from what he says, they never physically made the black suit for Henry to wear on set. That the plan was always to have him wear the suit and have it be black and white in post-production. So that's why there never was, at least as far as we know, a suit that was black that Henry actually wore, and that they were always gonna have him wear the suit, but still have it just be done and with the visual effects after the fact.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah,
I wish there was like a physical, like behind the scenes, it just looks. I mean, I'm sure it'll look great anyway because like the textures that the CGI artists and like the digital artists are able to accomplish in this universe is like amazing. Like with the Kryptonian armor and everything else. So I'm sure it'll look great, but you know, I kind of wish that there was like a physical artifact, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my whole thing too, was like when we first got the scene, I don't want to say I was disappointed, but like I guess I got my own hopes too high as far as what we were going to get from Justice Con. So I'm never going to be like, "Oh, well, we should have gotten a teaser trailer. We should have gotten this, we should have gotten that." So I will say when I first saw the scene, I was ready to like react to like a full, like at least like maybe a 30-second teaser or something. And well, I still love what we got, and knowing that we're getting the black suit, and just overall that we're getting the Snyder Cut, period. I'm definitely okay with what we got. Like Zach didn't have to give us anything, you know. If it was just the panel itself, honestly, that would have been more than enough for me because we got a lot, you know, like. And he gave us so much information and so much history of like his experience with the franchise and like where he was going with Justice League and everything like that. So like when we ultimately got the scene, we're like, well, yes. Initially, I was like, oh, okay, like that's fine. At the same time, I'm like, you know what? Like this is the first official scene released of the Snyder Cut with the black suit. I looked at it in that context. I'm like, you know what? I'm really happy with what we got. I think the suit looks really good. I can't wait until we see the scene in its full HD. Because, of course, the way the stream worked, like, we couldn't see it, like, 100% super clear. Like, you could zoom in and you could still see, like, you know, beat the sweat off Henry's face or something like that. You know, like, it's not like 100% HD. But even in the quality we got, it still looks like a really good scene. And I will say, if you listen closely, it's not the same exact score that was from the original scene that was released on the digital and Blu-ray release for Justice League. That there is a slightly different version of his Man of Steel theme being played in the background there, and I'm pretty sure that's the first bit of the junkie score from the movie that we've heard.
It's actually, and I don't know if any of you guys noticed this too, but the way Henry Cavill says that line, it's also different too. The way he says, if you look at the one that we saw as a deleted scene, and then you look at that scene, like you notice that there's like he sounds very different in how he delivers that line. So I'm not sure if that's because, you know, the deleted scene was something else or not, but yeah, the way he says it just sounds different.
Really? Because I thought it was the exact same scene.
Yeah, that was the first thing I noticed when I saw it. Like, look, I've seen that deleted scene hundreds of times, and yeah, the way he says it in Zach's version and the way he says it in Joss's version, they're very different.
Hold on. Hold up. I'm
thinking it might be a different take of because like if both of them must have been done by Zach because, you know, his face is normal. So maybe going back, Zach just preferred a different take of that line, so he picked a different. Which is honestly probably this process is maybe a good opportunity for him to kind of like reassess all of the photography that they did and kind of pick different things that he likes better.
Okay, hold up. So I'm gonna play the two different versions. So
Danielle, I don't think your mic is working because I can't hear you.
Yeah, I was about to say it's been real quiet.
I think she turns her mic off when she's not talking.
Yeah.
But either way, I don't know if she's there. Okay, so here's the audio from the one that was released on Blu-ray.
I'm assuming you're Alfred.
Alright, so there's that. And then, okay, so let me go. Sorry, unfortunately, you had to hear the Danny Elfman score. Okay, so then let me pull up the Justice Con version and see. Okay, where'd it go? Here we go.
Yeah, Danielle's mic broke.
Oh, her mic broke?
Can Can you guys hear me now, or do I need?
Oh,
to
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. Good. It's just the headphones.
While Nick is setting up the next audio, I just have to say, like, I hope. I know in Man of Steel 2 is like his Clark's like next step in character development, so he's supposed to be like a little bit more confident and like generally happier because the world isn't hating on him anymore, or at least as much as they used to. But I really hope, just to mess with the haters who are going to be like, ooh, thank God he's over his depressed stage or whatever. I just want him to just like not smile as much as they want him to still. Like, I want him to maybe like smile like 3 times in the movie just to like piss them off, because they're going to hate.
Well, I love how Zach is like, like coming back from the dead is gonna fuck you up, dude. Like, this isn't gonna be a happy fun time movie because that's not the movie that I set up. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that this was supposed to be Chuckles the fucking clown. Like, it's not gonna be. Like, he's coming back from the dead, y'all. He has trauma, and it would be so un-Zach to just be like, oh, well, he's over it now. Whatever. Like, it's not going that way. And that's honestly the reason why I think he was drummed off this project, is because he was just like, nope, this is what Superman does. He's going to have his feelings, and nobody wants Superman to have his feelings. Yeah. We could do a whole podcast episode on the Superman problem.
I know.
I can't even unpack. I can't even begin because I know where we'll go.
Yep. And it's funny, like, honestly, like, while we've been in quarantine and stuff, like, since we haven't been doing nearly as many podcasts as we have been in the past, like, if it's, like, late at night or something and I'm playing my PlayStation, I'll just listen to some of our old stuff, and, like, the days where we just went off on shit like that for, like, an hour, like, it was just so funny, like, just, like, hearing how, like, one of us mentioned something small comment about the Superman fandom, and then, like, either, like, me or Danielle or whatever, just like, all right, gloves are off, let's go.
Literally, it's so hard. I'm just like, I'm tucking it in, everyone. Like, we can talk about this later. Maybe we need a Superman episode again.
I know, again.
Oh yeah, we definitely need a Superman episode.
Okay, so I have the Justice Con clip for. Okay.
See how you see that kind of charcoal in the cape? It's just that little.
Assuming you're Alfred.
Okay.
Yeah, it is different.
Really? Because I'm looking at. I just watched the other one.
Lower pitch.
Unless they adjusted the pitch of his voice, it's shot the exact same way. So I don't know if it's just the way it comes out, but
I mean, I'm sure there's at least 10 versions of that scene, that hit the cutting room floor. It's not completely impossible that they used just like one that was like exactly the same, but like a different tone of voice. Henry's got degrees. He's a multifaceted talent, if not a multifaceted man.
He's got assets.
No, and I'm not saying that he's not. I'm just like, in comparing the two different versions, I personally just don't hear the difference that you guys hear, but I don't know. So I mean,
the first one is like, I'm assuming you're Alfred, and then the second one is like, I'm assuming you're Alfred.
I don't know. I don't.
He's got his big boy voice on in the second one.
I don't know. I personally
I love the big boy voice.
But I will say though, I am glad that Zach chose this scene, because I remember when this scene dropped, I literally cried probably for a good 20 minutes. Like, like the way that Henry delivers the lines, and then the way that Alfred is like, Master Kent, and you're just like, oh my god, like, you didn't think you needed a scene between Clark and Alfred, but we needed the scene between Clark and Alfred, Like, there's something...
I needed a scene with Alfred and, like, literally the entire league. Like, that's my, like, bread and butter. Like, that's, like, the thing that I most look forward to in future projects with this.
I'm ready for Alfred in his Superman t-shirt.
Yeah.
I am ready for Alfred to literally bully Bruce every second about his friends. Like, when you hanging out with your friends, with your super friends, with your buddies, and like, they're not my friends, Alfred. I work alone. It's like, okay, sure.
Well, that's the funny thing. Like, that's definitely the one thing from the theatrical version that I know we're definitely going to be getting is just, like, the sassy Alfred that cares, but also is, like, kind of poking the bear with Bruce.
He's not pushed too far. He has a right to those clips. He has a right.
And that's the thing, like, what was great about, like, honestly, Jeremy Irons is easily my favorite Alfred. Michael Caine did a good job, and then Michael Gough from the original movies did a really good job. But just personally, like, in what I envision the character to be like, Jeremy Irons nails every aspect of the character that I love. Because Alfred is just, like, such a warm and inviting character, but again, also, like, he'll be blunt and honest with you if, you know, you're doing stupid shit, you know, like, he's he's basically the parent everyone needs / wants, you know, like, he embodies the best of both, like, he's very responsible, like, he's very loving, he's very caring, but also, like, he'll give you a hard time if, you know, again, if you made a stupid mistake, or you're not listening to him, or you're just, like, you know, like, again, Jeremy Irons, even in the one scene we've seen with him and Henry, like, they feed off each other so well in that scene. And while we don't see it here in the Justice Con clip, but in the scene that they released earlier, when you see Henry smile there, like, just little moments like that, I just feel like define both characters in such amazing ways that, like, again, it's little tiny micro gestures from the actors that make the scene for me. And it's stuff like that I'm really looking forward to in the Snyder Cut, because that's what was sorely missing from, obviously, the theatrical version. But also, I feel like in a lot of superhero movies today, where, like, I feel like you just need, like, a quiet moment between two characters that aren't trying to quip back at it forth in each other. That it's just, like, a nice, tender moment between two people who have, like, a mutual understanding of one another, even if it's, like, with Henry or with Clark and Alfred here, well, they don't know each other super well, and there is a certain form of respect there, because the way that, you know, obviously this is post BVS, but, you know, the way that Superman greets Alfred here is not nearly the same as the way that Superman greets Batman when he first meets him. So he automatically knows, okay, Alfred is the guy I want to talk to. Batman is the guy I want to beat his face in because he's breaking the law and hurting people. You know, so that's little things like that, again, are just what make the scene work so well for me. And honestly, kind of why I wish we did get that extra little bit in Zach's version that we did see earlier with just, like, the Master Kent. He said you'd come. I know we're going to see it eventually, but just for me personally, I just wish we got that little bit more, because I love the scene so much.
I need more soft boy Clark Kent.
Me
I need
too.
more of him.
We all
I need
need
more
that.
of him being super humble about. Because can you imagine coming back from the dead, coming back from? Can you imagine like when Clark died, he died with all those people hating him, treating him differently, calling him like either a monster or a god or this and that. Can you imagine dying for that world, coming back, and then, you know, you hear someone call you Master Kent? And for Clark to hear that, that's probably like a culture shock for him, because he comes from Kansas where no one calls you Master Kent. So, like, I really want to see more of his reaction to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely, like, I agree. I totally want to see more of that too. And especially, like, now that I think about it, like, this probably will be. Also, I apologize. My daughter's playing with her toys. This scene probably will be one of the first actual interactions that Clark has outside of Lois, like genuine interactions outside of Lois after he's resurrected. Like, I'm sure we're gonna see another version of the fight with him in the League, you know, because, you know, we know Zach filmed that, at least the good parts anyway. And we know he's gonna have stuff with Lois on the farm. So I'm sure he's gonna have to have that reunion scene with Martha in its entirety. Whether or not he calls her Ma is still up in the air, Danielle.
I'd also like to talk about Master Kent. Logistically, I don't know. we'll see. Like context is everything. But like, there's just word choices where I'm sort of like, okay, but did you really think that through? Because like, he's not your master anything. First of all, you don't work for him. Second of all, it's kind of beautiful and tender that he's calling him by his actual name. Like, I'm never down for Alfred calling Clark Superman. Like, he could call him Clark to his face, and I would be like, that sounds about right. He's everyone's dad. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Master Ken. I'm gonna need to see it in context before I have a lot of criticism for it. But Ma is bullshit. And if he says it, I will write Zach a letter. I will write Zach a letter just about Ma. I will be like, what were you doing? Who are you writing? Who is this man? I don't know him.
It's so funny. I remember
someone said on Tumblr about, like, they made like a whole post about what exactly Alfred means when he calls people master, and apparently it's like diminutive or something. Like, it's like for the child of the house and not for like
I think there's a difference between last name and first name, because he doesn't call Bruce Master Wayne. He calls Bruce Master Bruce, which is the
he's done both. He's done both in BVS.
He's being condescending when he calls him Master Bruce. That's the context that I remember reading.
He did call him Master Wayne, though.
He did.
In the warehouse one.
Yes. Well, I mean, like, I think that's the supposed difference. Culturally speaking, I can't really speak to it, but like, it's an interesting question. He works for Bruce, and he doesn't necessarily work for Clark. And I think, like, you know, there's something to be said about like the context of like respect and decorum and all that. But like, I think you need to think about like why we're choosing these words and whether or not it makes sense from Alfred's perspective, not necessarily from like what would be cute to hear.
What is he?
Same thing with Ma.
I'll just never forget the first time we debated this, and I'm like, no, he very clearly says Ma, and I'm pretty sure that's Zach's name because there's no CGI mouth, and you're like, no, it's fucking stupid. I don't give a fuck who did it. And I'm like,
ruining my life. And literally, if it makes it into the movie, I promise you, I will let Zach know. I'll get on Vero and I will be like, Zach, we need to talk about Ma. It's a problem. It's a problem, and I don't accept it under any circumstances.
So what's the?
I disagree with him.
Like,
what
does Alfred usually? Sorry, Nick.
No. Go ahead.
What does Alfred usually call the other members of the league when they're like around?
That's a good question.
I think it's kind of new for him to call anyone by their actual name. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of a new choice. I've only ever heard him call people by code names, even on the scant opportunity he's had. He doesn't really get to interact with the league too much, which is bullshit, because he's kind of part of it. It's like saying Lois shouldn't interact with the league. Like,
yeah,
they're both deeply entwined in the lives of, you know, the people involved.
Mm-hmm. So my question is, so what is so terrible about the use of Ma that makes you act such a way?
Is it because for me, I think the reason, like, I have my hang-ups about when Clark calls people Ma and Pa, because for me, it sort of just reminds me of this stereotypical, I'm from Kentucky, I'm from, where's he from again?
Kansas.
Kansas.
How do you not know? You call yourself a Superman fan? You're fired.
Kansans are my neighbors, everyone. Kansans are my neighbors. In 1800, they were maybe calling their parents Pa and Ma. It's not the present day. It is time traveling into stupid 1940s bullshit. And
That's a fair criticism.
I'm not here for it. I don't want to ever hear it. I don't want to ever hear it again because it takes me out immediately. It's like, who is that guy? He's pretending to be someone else. I also don't think that everybody who's in a Superman story should talk with like a weird 1940s clip just because he was invented in 1938. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, Lois doesn't have to be a character pulled right out of a black and white movie, and that's half the problem that people have with Amy Adams' Lois, because we know Amy can do the 1940s movie. We've seen her in several different roles where she does that character. That's what I thought she was going to bring to it, and after watching Man of Steel, the relief that that's not what she decided to do. She brought her into the future. She brought her with us. She made her relatable. She made her into a person that I could aspire to be. Like, that's so cool. Like, that's something that everyone should be proud of, and that is the middle of my thesis on Ma and why it sucks.
Yeah, I think the reason why people expect Clark and basically a lot of Superman characters to sound like that, and I think this is just going back to people's nostalgia. I think people really are still so hung up on the Richard Donner Superman movie and how everyone uses that as a template to create a Superman story in general. I think that's why people keep saying, oh, he should say Ma, he should say Pa, or Lois should act like this, or Jimmy Olsen should act like that, because they're all still stuck in the 70s with Christopher Reeves as Superman. And I think it's because of that nostalgia that we're still in this struggle to bring Superman into modern times without it being criticized as, oh, not my Superman, or, oh, Superman is too dark. He would never say this and that.
Oh, for sure. But I would say also that we are progressing the conversation toward realizing that the Donner films are extremely modern compared to the source material, and that whatever these people are remembering in some sort of fugue dream state never actually existed. These aren't people who have read the original comics, so they're not remembering it from that. These aren't people who clearly have a very good grasp of the Donner films, because they're not really remembering anything that actually happens in those. Every time that we cite something that actually happened in the Donner films, Donner people who claim to be Donner fans, are shocked and confused because they don't remember the films. They don't remember what actually happened.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna bring up. Like what I was saying, like it's like the people who I imagine there are people hung up on like, oh, they should be called Ma and Pa. But like, even in the '70s version, well, technically in with young Clark in Superman the movie, it technically took place in the '60s. He was calling them Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
And like that was very much so. Like, granted, it wasn't filmed in Kansas, but that, more so than other versions, definitely feels like, okay, they're definitely filming in like small town rural. Like, they might have that sort of way of speaking, but they honestly don't. Like, no one in that version has like that kind of like country hick kind of like mentality of like, that's my boy Clark out there. Like, no, like that doesn't. Like.
There's also like an antiquated artificial distance that's created by those, and I don't know if it's because the time they come from is a time where parents and children are like more estranged and less openly affectionate. But there's something about Ma and Pa that takes away some of the intimacy that we've built between Clark and his parents, and this intimacy is different from other versions and the way that their intimacy works. He's really got intense personal emotional relationships with his parents that are complex and adult and interesting and extremely loving, and there's something about Ma and Pa that cheapens that sentiment to me. Like, there's just something about it that just sort of like, it's not just like the country bumpkifying of Superman, because that's a whole nother issue. That's an issue I have as a Minnesotan, and that's my own baggage. I'm putting it over here because, I mean, I think also Ma and Pa creates sort of like a weird formality between him and his parents doesn't actually exist. He's not beholden to them. And that's the coolest thing. Is like we have this weird stereotype about adopted kids being beholden to their parents and like owing them respect on a level that kids who weren't adopted don't necessarily get burdened with. And I think that there's a knee-jerk reaction to define the Kents as like Superman owes them. Mm-hmm. And it's not like that. It's a two-way street. It's about giving love and receiving love. And being able to adopt a kid is a really amazing, emotional, and rewarding experience. And to pretend that that's not what happened to Martha and John is just disingenuous to the actual experience they had. Like, did they have issues? Did they have troubles? Was it really, really detrimental in some ways to their lives to raise Superman? For sure. But like, that doesn't mean that he owes them like some sort of like arm's lengthing or deference or anything. That's his parents.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the funny, like, thinking about, like, the way that nerd culture uses it and the way that even, like, in-universe characters refer to the Kents, like, I feel like a lot of times when they refer to them, like, oh, you know, good old mom, pa, Kent, I feel like it's definitely used as, like, a derogatory term to, like, to definitely make them sound more like just country hicks rather than just, like, these honestly, like, really progressive people who put their lives on the line to protect their child. You know?
Zach's Martha is brilliant. Zach's Martha is a genius. She's a better parent than I could ever imagine being. She intuitively understands really complex neurological issues that her son has without what it seems like any foundational knowledge. Mm-hmm. She's extremely, extremely smart, but we don't give her credit for that smartness because it's streetwise smartness. It's emotional intelligence. It's, you know, it's a lot of values that we don't necessarily value those things. Mm-hmm. We value intelligence like Lex Luthor's, which is awesome. Thank you so much for that, everyone.
When you talked about how like the mom pop thing kind of cheapens the relationship or like makes it feel antiquated, I think it's because it's so like separate from our time, you know, like it's purely based on nostalgia to like insist that Clark or other characters call them that, because it's like now it exists somewhere where we aren't, you know, like now it's something that we can like distance ourselves from, so we can't relate to it. Like we can relate to calling our parents mom and dad, but we can't relate to ma and pa, so it kind of makes it seem like something like foreign or like just emotionally not as relatable.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, I think what certain writers and certain people do to like separate the Kents from other people, like they do put the Kents in an other type of category when it comes to the way that they are as parents compared to other people in the universe. Like you never hear like people refer to as like Thomas and Martha Wayne in that similar degree. You know, they're like, oh, they're Bruce's parents. It's like good old mom, pa, Ken over there. Like, it's very like they're trying to like tear down the people who are honestly like probably some of, if not the best parents in the DC universe, in almost any version. Like,
not to mention key players in the DC universe, because every time you take them out of the story for the entire planet of the DC universe gets shittier. Yep. Like, put some respect on Martha's name.
New 52. Yeah, and that's the thing, like, especially when they kill off the Kents before Clark becomes Superman, too.
You know, before Man of Steel, I didn't really think much about Martha. But I think one of the most defining moments, in my opinion, that really showed me just how important Martha was in Man of Steel when, you know, Clark was going through this sort of mental breakdown. And, you know, Clark was running, he was seeing through things, he was having a mental breakdown, and he ran into a closet. And then, of course, that teacher, fuck that teacher for knocking on the door like an idiot instead of talking. But, well, I say that because, you know, I've been a teacher, so I kind of I guess being a teacher told me that the way she was knocking on the door was like, God, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you knocking on the door like that? That's so dumb.
Got your back out. Ex-teacher too. That was bullshit. I was mad.
Well, now I'm even more mad as a teacher because I'm like, well, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you knocking on the door like that?
Also, letting the entire class stand outside the door with her.
Exactly.
You also don't have any training in dealing with neurotypical children. Like that's just an autistic kid. Calm the shit down, lady.
Yeah, but and then, you know, Martha coming and talking him down from that anxiety. You know, telling him, just hear my voice. You know, just don't think about anything else. Hear my voice. Think of my voice as an island and swim to it. And
did you hear that was Debbie's favorite scene?
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah, he talked about it in DC Fandom. One of the presenters, like, or one of the hosts, like, talked about it. How she does that to help with anxiety.
Yeah, and you know that scene really drove home why Martha should always be included in Superman's story, because she is what she, like, of course you have Lois who, you know, brings Clark back to reality, but like it's Lois and Martha who are like the most important people to really bring the heart of a Superman story. And if you take one of them out, or if you take both of them out, then you really have nothing.
Yeah. And I like that Clark, like, the most important people in his life are women. Because, like, I don't know, I feel like it makes him more sensible as a person, you know.
I think it's really intentional, honestly. I think that, like, one of the first characters that gets added to the Superman mythos is Lois, and she's the first recurring character. She's, you know, she holds a second place in all of the good comics, in all of the original comics. Like, it's definitely very intentional for him to be, you know, focusing himself around women, and but I also think that's just the instinct that Zach would have had looking at this character. Like, I mean, like, because he surrounds himself with really awesome, strong women, and that's just something that comes naturally to him. It's something that makes you a better person when you surround yourself with people. I mean, even when you surround yourself with people you don't necessarily understand, or if you don't have access to their specific experiences, it makes you a better, more well-rounded person. And you would imagine that Superman is smart enough to know that. And, you know, also that he's going to gravitate toward women because he does have a softness that's atypical. He does have a postmodern masculinity that interacts more readily with women because we're more in tune with gender naturally, just by being oppressed by it.
Okay, I missed all of what you just said, but whatever it was, I probably agree with. So I'm just gonna say I agree.
To, like, talk about, like, Zach, I mean, I don't want to take us to, like, an angry place, but did Lindsay Ellis ever, like, apologize for what she said about Zach's mom?
I'm sure she had some, like, hollow apology,
will.
but I don't think she's ever actually owned up to it in
Lindsay
any real
Ellis,
way.
she's like a movie reviewer person on YouTube. Used to work with Channel Awesome, the Nostalgia Critic people.
Oh, Nostalgia Chick. Oh, yeah, she never apologized for that.
Yes, her and all those people, like that one person who said that, oh, Zach bullied his daughter into suicide or whatever, like, all those types of people are just, there's a special place in hell for those types of people, is all I'm going to say.
Wait, her username has the word nostalgia in it?
No, she used to be a Nostalgia Chick, and then she left Channel Awesome, and now she's just Lindsay Ellis.
Oh my god, that just unlocks everything about her. Like, I understand it so deeply
she was
now.
She was brought on to be, like, the counterpart to the Nostalgia Critic guy.
Ah. That's just, it's just like it's such a regressive thing in the first place. Like, why would you ever make that, like, part of your tag, part of your you know, online identity. I hate the word, and I hate the concept, and I think, like, you know, I mean, like, I say toxic nostalgia a lot, but I don't think that there's non-toxic nostalgia.
Yeah.
But The Force Awakens is still a good movie.
I like it. Wait, are you being ironic or are you being serious?
No, I'm being serious.
Don't start us up.
Right.
Don't start us. I'm trying to tame the monster that I created right now.
I watched Solo for the first time. A couple days ago.
Oh,
with
how'd
my
you like
mom, and she was like, we're both more Star Trek kind of people, but I've seen like every Star Wars movie, anyways, just because I felt like to be in on the memes and the pop culture and everything. So we were watching it. And my mom was like, "This is boring. There are all the Star Wars movies like this." Well, she said it was horrible and boring and other things. Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, but Force Awakens is good." And I said, "It's by JJ. I like JJ." So.
It is funny.
Yeah,
that
I'm not saying I defend everything about JJ Abrams. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like I liked his Star Trek movie. So yeah.
Yeah. Again, I'll agree with you there. Like, JJ has done and I guess continues to do problematic shit, but his intentions going into Star Trek and Star Wars, I feel like aren't problematic, and that I do give him credit there for like he genuinely tried making good / different enough / honoring the fans and the media itself with both properties.
I will absolutely give him an A for effort. He can have that, sure.
I definitely as a Star Trek fan who only ever grew up watching The Next Generation, it was phenomenal. It was it blew my mind, and it I can watch it over and over again. My mom is the same way. It just and it turned me onto the original series because I had never seen that.
Same
and
here.
I really I can't. Yeah, he's problematic, but that movie just it's my shit.
No, I agree. That movie turned me on to everything Trek. Walking in that movie, I was only seeing it because my grandma and her boyfriend took me to go see it, and I remember we were going out to dinner before, and the bartender we were at California Pizza Kitchen, and when we were there, the lady there was like, "Oh, so are you a Star Trek fan?" I'm like, "No, I am not a Trekkie. Never will be a Trekkie. No. I'm not that type of person." And then,
what do you mean type of person?
hey! This was 14-year-old.
That is the house in which I was raised, Nick. That is the house in which I was raised.
Hey, this is 14-year-old Nick. This isn't even peak of problematic Nick. Anyways, so I walked out of the movie and I'm like, damn it, I'm a Trekkie now. So I loved it, and then immediately when I got to, because I stayed with my grandma that night because we'd have every Friday night I'd stay at her house, we'd go to the movies, dinner, or whatever, and so that night when I went back to her house, immediately on TV there was an episode of The Next Generation, so I turned it on and immediately fell in love with it. I still haven't seen much of the original series just because I feel like that show is a little too dated for me, but The Next Generation is phenomenal. I've seen every episode and it's one of my favorite series of all time.
It took me a while
I once
to
got
warm
Star
up
Wars
to
confused
the
with
original
Star Trek.
because it
What
is.
is that?
Sorry, Al?
No, I'm sorry. I was saying I got Star Wars confused with Star Trek for the longest time until someone told me, no, that's not the same thing.
Well, Star Wars has war, and Star Trek is just that's how you tell them apart.
There's never actually been a war in Star Trek. I don't recall one.
The Klingon Wars?
There's never been a war.
There's
The
friction.
Romulan Wars?
The Romulan Wars occurred before the events of the original series.
You're right. But now after.
Okay,
Yeah, the
anyways.
original series is it took me a little bit to get into it because it is so different, and I'm used to the good the digital graphics and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just beep boop with the plastic things sticking out of the control panel.
The secret to loving the original series, and this was gifted to me by older Trekkies, is to three-way ship Spock, Bones, and Kirk. And once you do that, everything else doesn't matter. Nothing else that happens in the series matters, because those three actors are looking at each other like they want to crawl inside each other's skin 24/7.
Well, honestly, it took me a while to get used to. Once I got used to it, I was like, okay, I'm I'm used to the level of tech that I'm seeing right now. But I agree. Like, honestly, okay, to be fair, I don't ship Bones and Spock. Like, I just like them being frenemies.
It's for like masochists. Like, if you ship Bones and Spock, then you like pain. You like to hurt yourself.
But definitely Spock and Kirk, and Bones and Kirk, but not like there's like a name for it, and like where there's three people in the relationship, but like two of them they aren't dating, so they're both dating the same person, but they aren't dating each other. I don't know the name for it, but there's a name for that.
Polygamy?
No. Polygamy is polygamy is like an umbrella term, but like there are specific, like a triad is when there's three people, and then there's like other terms, but like polygamy is like an umbrella term for like.
So what's a throuple?
Different kinds. A throuple is three people who are all dating each other.
Okay. That's the only one I'm familiar with.
Wow, people who listen to us for the Justice Con stuff are really going to be lost right now.
Learn something every day.
Oh boy! And if anyone here are new listeners, this is our usual deal
this
here.
Is normal.
Yeah.
This is what you can expect. More of the
I
same.
mean, at least we're not called
DC Films Podcast
At least we're just
anymore.
Bitter Geeks now. So when we go on these tangents,
Yeah.
okay,
That is the reason
Stay
why we
tuned
changed.
for a very special Twilight episode.
Oh no, no, here we go.
Hey, yeah, I would love to be in this Twilight episode because
That's a new book.
I have not read any of the new books, like any of the reverse universes or anything like that. But
Oh no, I mean like the new book of Twilight that's coming out. That's from Edward's perspective.
that already happened. Oh my God!
Wait,
Are you
it
talking
came out
about
already?
Midnight Sun?
Has someone read it?
I haven't.
Oh my God, dude! Are you talking about Midnight Sun?
What? Yeah.
The name of the book? Because this.
As the host of this podcast, I do not approve of this discussion.
What'd you say?
I said, as the host of the podcast, I don't approve of this discussion.
Anyway, so years ago, and I'm talking like back when I was like still in high school or something. Like, she was in a writers group. Stephanie Meyer was in a writers group, and like when you're in a writers group, it's supposed to be like just support and like feedback, and obviously you're not supposed to leak the works of your fellow writers. But somebody in her group leaked her manuscript, and it got out there, and because it got out there, she just posted it for free on her website because she was like, screw it, it's there already. And I think she posted like the first, several chapters, and it was like I was like riveted by it. I literally reread it, like I read it and then I read it again at a later time. But like I didn't know it would ever come out because like she was so, upset that it had been leaked before it was done. And so I didn't know that it would like actually come out at all. So like this is very exciting. Like I understand Twilight is very problematic, and like I understand like even back when I was like in the middle of it, like I had like an alternate universe where I like fixed the problematic elements so I could like enjoy it in like a non-problematic way. But
yeah, we can talk about it outside of the context. Like we can definitely. I would say like any good episode of the Bitter Geeks podcast, which is Twilight based, would begin with like an exploration of all the reasons why we think Twilight is a net evil in the universe. But then like after that, once you got that out of the way, then you have nothing but appreciation, and that's when creation begins, because we go places,
And that's
when
Danielle hosts
that, like,
the podcast, guys.
A lot of bad, but I really appreciate Twilight, and like I'll never apologize for that. Because like when you erase when you clip all of the terrible things, it's kind of brilliant.
Yes.
And like I'm not gonna say that it's not, because like I love it, and like I'm not gonna lie and say I don't. Like I do.
I'm not. Hey, as an outsider. Here, I just want to say though.
I might have to figure out how to run the podcast first because I think Nick is about to.
I'm about to resign here.
Yeah, I think we're losing it quickly.
Hey, I mean, I can talk about Twilight if like.
I know you can. You guys talked for an hour about it once.
I'm just saying.
Oh yeah.
We might have to get someone who can run the tech part of this.
As long as you're coming in good faith and you're not going to just be like, you teenage girls like something, therefore, I'm just going to slag on it. Like, you gotta come with, like, actual criticism and stuff,
Oh,
okay, I will say that. I do want to say, though.
This is not a negative attribute of the Twilight franchise.
And I'm like, what is that? Like, what do you mean? Is that criticism? Like you're not actually talking.
Because Twilight for me, like, when I was younger, I thought it was just, kind of lame. But, like, revisiting, there's, like, a lot of lore into it. There's, like, a lot of lore going on in this series that I kind of was interested in.
How do we always end up doing this?
Nick,
okay. I do want to say, though.
I gave you fair warning that if we went off into Star Wars, this was going to happen.
How does Star Wars get to Twilight, though?
I just have to say it.
Okay, I do want to say, though, as an outsider who I have absolutely no attachment, never will have any attachment towards Twilight, I'm not going to be a negative energy with you guys. Like, I'm never going to, like, tell you guys you're wrong for loving Twilight or having any sort of appreciation for Twilight. But I'm not going to be here for Twilight.
That's fair. We respect that boundary.
But, I mean, I might have to be here because I'm going to probably have to run the tech side of things. But, but I do want you guys to have the space to, talk about whatever you want to talk about. That's why I kind of started this podcast in the first place. But, so I won't be here for the discussion, but they can talk about whatever they want to talk about, and I'll just do anything else, literally anything else.
You could just press record and walk away. We'd be fine with that. It'll probably take about 6 hours anyway.
Well, actually, it's probably a good idea anyway. All right, and on
not to get into 50 Shades because that's like a whole other 8 hours of.
Oh no, I can't talk about 50 Shades. I'm sorry. That's a discussion I'm gonna have to stay out of. I can do Twilight, but I cannot do 50 Shades. That's
okay, all right.
It's fair. You gotta protect your health. It's bad for you.
All right, and on that note, I think it's probably a good time to end, just because my wife's home. We try to spend some time with her and my daughter. But this was definitely a productive conversation, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
At least it was for a while there. No, but in all seriousness, I did have a lot of fun.
For like a good hour and a half. I think only the last 30 minutes is probably this.
Yeah, and hey, that's honestly, for us, that's probably the most organized podcast we've had probably since you came on, Danielle.
Yep, I'm practicing restraint. This is what it sounds like. It's not good. I'll get better and better.
All right, so if you guys each want to kind of close yourselves out and tell everyone where they can find you online one last time.
So once again, I'm Rebecca. You can find me on Twitter at Rebecca_MJ12.
My name is Al Speed. You can find me at AlBLM Speed on Twitter.
And I'm Danielle, and I am a Social Justice League on Tumblr and The Bravest Heart on Twitter.
And then, of course, you guys can find me here at Nerdy Nick on YouTube, True Man of Steel on Tumblr, and True Man of Steel _ on Twitter. Thank you guys for being here. It's definitely, I have missed the long overrun podcasts. I'm not gonna lie. Even if we do go on that long Twilight tangent, it was still a lot of fun. I've missed talking to you guys.
Yep.
Big same.
All right. So on that note, I'll talk to you guys soon. And for everyone listening, thank you so much. And I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.